Welcome. The name of the show is The Next Chapter. I'm your host, Amazon bestselling author Fred Hughes. You're probably asking yourself, what's this show about? It's about the written word. Whether I might talk to authors, I might talk to editors, I might talk to publishers, voice actors, lots of different people in the publishing industry to talk about the written word. This week's show, I've got Michael LeVois. He's an up-and-coming science fiction writer. He's got a 3-book series out with one publisher. He's got a new book coming out mid-February with my publisher, Chris Kennedy Publishing, and he's got 2 more books already in the can waiting to be published. So he's going to tell us about his journey in writing this new book and hooking up with Chris Kennedy Publishing and how he got into publishing. And I think you'll enjoy the story because all of you, I think there's a certain mindset amongst a lot of people that all authors are English nerds that scribbled short stories and things like that when they were in high school or wrote for the school newspaper or whatever. Actually, Michael fits that category. That's exactly what he did. Whereas on the other hand, I never thought, I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum. I never thought of myself as a creative person. I just had a story to tell and decided to start writing it out. So the reason why I bring it up is it takes all different kinds of people to write stories or novels and to become published authors. And as I said it once to you listeners, I've said it probably 5 times, a dozen times. A story never written is never going to be read. I think everyone out there would be amazed at how interesting you can be if I guarantee you there's someone out there that wants to hear your story. Now, is it enough to make a living? Time will only tell, but it doesn't hurt to try it. And anyway, moving on. Lots happening in my life. Last show, I talked about being at Superstars and meeting some incredibly interesting people. This past week, and the very next weekend after the Superstars Writers Symposium, I participated in FenCon, which is a science fiction and fantasy convention here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My first time at this convention, a lot of firsts for me in this convention. It's probably the first convention I attended where I was a reasonably well-known author. All the rest of the conventions I've been at, I've sold a few books. Those of you who follow the show have heard me talk about it. I've written a few books. I've sold a few books. Just in case I forgot to mention it, the 3rd book in my Heroes of Britannia series will be out the first week of April, and that will be book number 15 that I have written, full novel in my own name. I've also been written short stories that are in 3 anthologies. But FenCon is the first con where I was really, I was a panelist, and I was invited to be a panelist, which means they acknowledged that I had, that I was a known author. So I didn't, for lack of a better word, I wasn't sitting at the kiddie table, doing, nonsense panels. I was on panels with some of the bigger names in the business. I sat on a panel with about space opera. And is it space opera? Is space opera going away with Jack Campbell? I I always think of him as John Henry, but Jack Campbell, the author of the Lost Fleet series, um, incredibly insightful person, and incredibly gifted author and successful author. The Lost Fleet, I think, is up to like 12 books now, I think he said. Plus, he's got prequels and sequels and everything else. And um, I was going to take my very dog eared copy of his first book, which is called Dauntless. But I was almost embarrassed because the covers are falling off. I mean, I've read and reread that book several times. So it was nice to be on a panel with him talking about space operas and military science fiction and the difference between the two, or is there a difference between the two? And sat on another panel with Mona Lisa Foster, who's an extraordinarily gifted author who she might be one of the better character creators in the business. She writes for Bang Books, and definitely an extraordinary writer. And I was fortunate to be on a panel with her, and Bill Fawcett, who's an old time science fiction and fantasy writer from years ago, written for everybody, written everything. And I sat next to him at a panel, and a new acquaintance for me, John Van Stry. If you haven't read him, pick up his books. The man has literally written a little bit of everything. He's written romance. He's written mil sci-fi. He's written fantasy. Under a pen name, which he refused to divulge, he's written harem novels. So, I mean, the man's incredible. The man's prolific. And if you go and look at the books that he has out there, you see, books with 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 ratings on them. And he just keeps cranking them out. I mean, he's so dynamic, and he's such a great writer. And it was fun sitting next to him at a panel because I was the moderator, and getting him to stop talking was a challenge. I'll tell you that. But it was fun, and now I have a connection with. And he writes, at least his mil sci-fi stuff is almost exactly the same as my stuff. So maybe I should have, not be talking him up because he's stealing some of my readers, I'm sure, but he's such a dynamic individual and such a dynamic writer. You should look and try to pick up his stuff. So I met all these great people, and I was basically sort of on panels with the A-listers. So don't know if that makes me an A-lister or not, but at least in my head I can pretend. But the other incredible thing that I did, which I had never done before, I actually sold books as a vendor. I had, on a part-time basis, at a couple of other cons, like for an hour or two, sold books at what they call authors' tables. If you go to almost any convention where there's authors involved, the organizer of the convention will allow authors to sell books on a limited basis. They'll have these tables. Usually it's outside of the vendor area, where the authors will be there for an hour or two to sell books, sign books, give autographs. And I have done that before. And I've sold a few books doing that. But this was the first convention where I legitimately acquired a table, set up all 18 of my books on various displays. And when I wasn't in panels, I was sitting there talking to the people going by, selling books. And the reason why I wanted to do it was not so much to sell the books, because to be honest, I sell more than enough books online. I don't need the money from selling books at a con. But it was to interact with the fans, interact with the people going by. And in some cases, it was new authors that were there to interact with authors. And I gave them advice about how to get into the business and even gave them my business card. In other cases, it was they introduced fans to my stuff. So they might buy my stuff in the future. So, but it was really about interacting with fans because I really enjoy talking to all of you, which is one of the reasons why I do this show. So I can reach out and talk to more people and hopefully get you to enjoy reading as much as I do. Well, after the break, Michael the Voice is going to tell us about his new book and how he got into writing. I'm Fred Hughes, and this is The Next Chapter. All right, and we're back from the break. The show's name is The Next Chapter. I'm Fred Hughes, and as advertised, I'm joined by Michael the Voice. Welcome to the show, Michael. Thanks for being on.
Hey, thanks for asking me to be on. I really appreciate that.
So Michael has a brand new book. It's the first book in a new series. It's the first book with a new publisher. So tell us all about that, Michael.
Right. Well, the first book is called Any Given Doomsday. It's the first book in a 3-book series called Gladius Leagues. I'll explain what that is in a second. It was a lot of fun to write. It's a story that's been rolling around in the back of my head for a number of years that I didn't get a chance to really put together until the last year or two when I was in the middle of putting out a series with another publisher, and they asked for some pitches for some new stuff. And that's when it all gelled together, and I pitched it to them, and they were like, "That's interesting. Yeah, we like that. Write that." And then I wrote the first book in it, and the first book, Any Given Doomsday. And they said, "Hey, we're not quite sure how to market this, so we're going to pass on it." I was like, "Okay." Panic.
Well, at least, and we won't mention the publisher's name. At least,
no, not at all. I'm not bad mouthing.
No, but I'm going to say, at least you didn't have 3 books done when they told you.
Right, and also they were honest enough to say, "Hey, yeah, we're not sure we're the right fit for this," which freed me up. I was all set to self-publish, okay. And I was talking to my good friend William Allen Webb, whom you know, and Bill Frisby, whom you also know. And a guy you might not know, M.G. Herron, author of The Gun Files, which if you haven't read that, it's an amazing sci-fi series involving a bounty hunter in modern day Texas dealing with aliens living in secret on Earth. Fun series. Go read it.
Sort of a cowboy version of Men in Black, then.
Well, kind of, but it's modern day though. So he's the main character is a bounty hunter. It's a great series. People should look that up. But so these guys were all giving me advice. Okay, you got to get this set up and this set up and this set up and this set up. And I'm like, oh wow, dude, information overload. And because I'd never self-published before, and at somewhere in the middle of that, William Allen Webb, Bill goes, "Hey, I just had a crazy thought. You want me to introduce you to Chris Kennedy?" And I was like, "You mean 4 Horsemen, Chris Kennedy Publishing, Chris Kennedy? That would be great, Bill. Yeah, thanks." So he did. He sent me the email address, and I sent him a solicitation letter with the first book, and the rest is history. They loved it, and they said, "Oh yeah, we would like to see the rest of this." And at that point, I almost had book 2 finished, so it was just a matter of time, a couple of months, that I had book 3 done. And so yeah, here we are, ready to release book 1, Any Given Doomsday, of Gladius Leagues, and I couldn't be happier. It's been an amazing experience working with Chris and the team at CKP.
So tell us about the book, and then you said you were going to explain more about the Gladius League.
Yeah. So I'll try not to do a long version, but for a long time, I had this idea in the back of my head. I'm an old video gamer from the old days. I don't play modern games, but I used to play one certain game because I'm a huge fanatic of the BattleTech franchise, the tabletop game, the video games from MechWarrior, all of that. And for the uninitiated, MechWarrior and BattleTech involves people fighting in great big stompy robots, basically, walking tanks, if you will. And I thought that was a cool idea. There was a video game where they had these machines battling it out in an arena, and you had a guy doing a play-by-play over it all, calling a play-by-play of a gladiator match between giant robots. It was just awesome stuff. I even played in a league for a while, MechWarrior leagues, and it was just a lot of fun. Even got to call the play-by-play on some games myself on MechWarrior League's radio. So I was like, man, the NFL would be so much cooler if they had guns. That's the way my mind works. And wouldn't it be cool if they could just shoot the football out of the air or something? That would be neat. And so for a couple more years, I just watched football, picturing these guys in power armor. I said, this would be so much cooler if they had power armor. This would be a much better sport. And so that's kind of where it started. And then I got the idea, well, what if in the far future, we've decided to end war in our time, just stop all the nonsense, stop all the needless death and destruction, and have warfare by proxy. We have these guys in these power armor suits. Each of them is representative of a conflict side, and they fight it out in an arena. People pay for the privilege to watch it. You get sponsors, you make money, and whoever wins the match, that side wins the dispute, hands down. So we ended warfare with trial by combat, combat by proxy, and the Gladius Leagues were born. They were so named after the pinnacle of human military technology, the Gladius suit, which is a approximately slightly larger than human size suit that a human fits in. It's armored. It has Gauss cannons and lasers and missiles and blasters and all the fun sci-fi weapons that you could want in a nice compact form. So it's not the giant stompy robots. And they even have melee weapons. Everybody gets a melee weapon. So if you want to go hand to hand, you can go hand to hand. And then I said, well, it'd be cool if we could divide it up into leagues. You got Planetary League, where you have big conflicts. And then you've got Duelist League, where it's just two guys going at it. And then you've got like other smaller versions of the games like Capture the Flag or McRugby. And all of these game types are kind of based on what we did in the MechWarrior Leagues game back in the day. And then I said, and you got to have announcers. You got to have somebody like, I don't know, the love child between John Madden and Bob Uecker calling the game, you know. And I thought it would be really great to have that. And then I thought, this is a great setup, but it's not really a story. It's a cool idea, but it's not a story. And then I started playing around. I was going to write an alien invasion series. And I was like, wait a minute. What if we're out here? We've spread out all over space and we've never found aliens. We've never even found evidence of aliens, right? It's Fermi's paradox writ large. It's like, okay. And then what if aliens show up and kick in the front door on humanity, and our only line of defense is a bunch of wealthy, spoiled, prima donna television combat warriors who really don't have the first clue as how to be real soldiers. And they need to learn real fast, or we're all going to die. That's a story. And that's how the whole thing got born. So, it was a lot of fun to put together. It was a lot of fun to mix. I decided to throw in some WWE bravado in with the NFL swagger and make some of the rivalries amongst the teams kind of staged. You had guys like ready to rip each other's heads off in an interview, and then they go backstage. Oh, that was great what you did out there. I really love that. Yeah, you were great too, buddy. Okay, see you on the field. And but as far as the fans are concerned, these guys hate each other's guts. You know, it was just the whole dichotomy of people going out there and risking their lives because you can get hurt out there. These are not toy weapons, but these guys risking their lives, and their whole motto is "We fight so others don't have to." And so they spared humanity the horrors of war, and in exchange for bread and circuses, in a way. But it's not the dystopian, dark future that everybody associates with that phrase. I assure you.
Okay. Well, since we've got a stopping point and I need to break to pay some bills. So when we come back from the break, Michael's going to tell us about how he got started in the business, how he started writing. You mentioned he's done some voice acting. We're going to get into all of that in the next segment. I'm Fred Hughes, and this is The Next Chapter. All right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming back after the break. We're still talking with Michael LeVois. He was telling us about his brand new book that just is just coming out. What's the name of that book again, Michael?
That would be Any Given Doomsday, book one of Gladius Leaks.
Yeah, we have to keep plugging that.
That's right.
How did you what made you decide to start writing, Michael? You haven't been at it all that long.
No, not professionally. I was basically a terrible student in school, mainly because I was bored out of my mind. This is way back before they started diagnosing everybody with ADHD. Turns out I do have it. I have a little maelstrom in my head that is really distracting, but I also can hyper-focus. It's a bizarre combination. I'll be the first to admit that. But one thing that I found that I excelled at in school was English. I was good at putting sentences together. I could be very descriptive. And a couple of teachers right around 5th grade took notice of that. And they said, hey, you ever think about writing a short story? And I was like, what's a short story? And they said, well, where we read that little short story by Rod Serling. Oh, yeah, The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Love that story. That was cool. It used to be standard fare in every kid's literature book, right? That and there was a story by Ray Bradbury where a guy reinvented mathematics on paper, right? And they were going to turn it in, they were going to weaponize it so he kills himself. It's just stories like that really snagged my imagination. That led to finding things like Analog, the magazine. You remember that, right, Fred?
Mm-hmm.
The short story magazine. And I fell in love with crime and noir thrillers. I'm a massive, massive Philip Marlowe fan. Love all the noir stuff. Love crime. I love Elmore Leonard. So all of these various interests, and then these teachers were encouraging me to write. And so I thought, man, maybe I got a future at this. I could do something with this. I mean, I see all these writers I admire. And Robert Heinlein, Piers Anthony, all the great noir writers. I love these guys, and maybe I could do that. And then life, as it does, happens. Got married, joined the army. But by then, I'd started cranking out some short stories, trying my hand at putting together real stories and basing characters on people that I was serving with in Germany. Mm-hmm. And didn't really do much with it at all until I got back stateside after a tour in Germany and then the first Gulf War. And got together with another friend of mine who was trying to put together a motion picture company in Paducah, Kentucky, of all places. Probably not the greatest idea to try to do it there, but that's where we were, and that's what we tried to do. So I tried my hand at screenwriting and just completely messed that up because I didn't know anything about the format. But I decided
it's totally different.
Yeah, like I wrote a 210-page screenplay that was a blueprint for how the finished film was supposed to look. I had no idea what I was doing. It was ridiculous. But then I decided, well, I mean, it's 210 pages. I might as well novelize the thing. So I tried and failed and tried and failed. And after a while, I finally found a story that I was happy enough with to shop around to agents. And this was way before Amazon was anything more than an online bookstore. So, Kindle didn't exist. Print on demand was barely in existence. So I shopped it around and I got a nibble from an agency and they said, yeah, we like this. It was an urban fantasy. It was terrible. I promise you. It was awful, but I liked it. And they said, we like this. It's about 70,000 words too long for the genre though. So you need to trim it. We'll give you 60 days. So I said, okay, sure. I eliminated like 3 subplots and 6 characters, had to completely rewrite the ending. And I turned the edits around in 30 days, sent it back to them. And then they decided they were no longer going to rep that sort of material. And I was back to square one. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. This is dumb. I don't like this. So I kind of quit for a while. For a really long time. I got back into theater. I got into some voice acting through a friend of mine who got me a gig in a video game that itself went into production hell and never saw the light of day. So just, in the meantime, I'm working in radio, then radio sales, and then, different things like that. And eventually, after the first marriage ended, I moved down to the Memphis area because that's where my parents were. I had to start over. And I've had a career meander not a career path. I've had a lot of different jobs. Turns out that's a good thing because it informs my writing. I know a little bit about a lot of stuff. And at that point, my current wife and I got together 27 years ago. And she found some stuff that I'd written and she was like, why aren't you doing anything with this? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't like the whole process. And, the trad pub. And then we forgot about it for a while. And then I got my first Kindle. And I was like, man, I could do this. It's electronic. I could do it myself. But I didn't have anything written and I really didn't know what I was doing. I got a subscription to Writer's Digest and I started learning and I tried to improve myself and improve my skill set because my early drafts were just awful. And eventually I picked up a couple of mentors who really beat a lot of the bad habits out of me. They even found me some work as a ghostwriter. So I was a ghostwriter for other people for about a year and a half. Before I started trying to write my own stuff under my own name. I helped one guy finish a couple of novels in one sci-fi series. And then I wrote the last 3 books in a lit RPG series, which I'll never do again. I hate lit RPG. I hate stats. They pull me right out of the story. I hate math. I'm no good with numbers. So you want me to create a table on his new stats? No, I'm not doing that. So, but I had a lot of fun doing it and I learned so much. So they just took me under their wing and I can never, ever repay them for that kindness. And then one of the guys that was one of my mentors was like, hey, why don't you put together some pitches? Let's do a series. And this guy co-authors with a lot of people. He said, we'll do a series and we'll get your name out there and see what we can do. Maybe we can get you doing this full time. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do this full time. Because, I have a day job. I work at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I love what I do there, but I'd really rather be writing, Mm-hmm. And so I put together some pitches and I sent him his way. And he's like, yeah, I like this one. Can't do that one. That one won't sell. I like these 2. If you could figure out a way to put these 2 together, that would be best. And that's how my first series, Galaxy's Most Wanted, was born, because it was part crime drama, which I already was in love with, and then part alien abduction, and then part space opera Navy action. It was the tender story of a Southside Chicago hood who, running from the police, accidentally stows away on an alien starship that is owned by an alien crime syndicate. And then they end up having to work off their debt for being taken off world by working for the alien crime syndicate. And then things get weird. And that was, it had a really great debut. It did well originally when it first came out. The publisher wanted 3 books. I already had 3 written. The story wasn't done yet, so I talked him into letting me do 4. So that's a 4-book series. It's still out there. If somebody wants to go find it. I'm proud of it.
I saw that they just released it as a 4-book set.
They did, and they also released an Audible bundle on that as well. So Galaxy's Most Wanted is available in both formats as a bundle, which is cool. People like to, they like to buy complete series. We all know who we have to thank for people not buying incomplete series. We're not going to name names. But there's more than just him, but I know
he's the biggest culprit.
Right. So in addition to all of that, I started to have the aforementioned story where I put together a new idea, this whole Gladius Leagues idea, and then the publisher of Galaxy's Most Wanted, they didn't want to do it, and that's fine. That's the way the business goes, man. I mean, they're the experts. If they felt it wasn't right for them, then I fully respect that. There was no hard feelings whatsoever. And then so I got into and told the story before of how I got together with Chris and got that going. But in the meantime, I've met so many writers from different genres and different places. I hang out on a lot of Discord servers with Three Ravens Publishing. They're mostly horror and some game fic with their Car Wars series. A lot of great folks over there, Hillbilly and Dave Hensley. Shout out Dwarf Dave. What's up, buddy? All my friends over there. And then, of course, I still talk to people at my other publisher. And then I met a whole new group of people, you included, at CKP, and it's just been a blast. I got to meet most of you guys at LibertyCon last year, and that was so much fun. I'd never been to a LibertyCon before, and it was amazing. But I'm just enjoying finally fulfilling the dream that I've had since I was basically in 5th grade of being a working writer. Yeah, I'm not doing it full time. I'm not wealthy, but I'm working the dream. And that's, I'm just going to keep getting better and just keep going.
And you can't publish it if you don't write it. So
that's what I tell people. They're like, I don't know, man. I just can't get started on this. I'm like, look, dude, you can't edit a blank page.
That's right.
And what was it that I'll paraphrase Hemingway? The first draft of anything is crap. So get it written.
When we come back from the break, Mike's going to tell us about what's coming up next for him. I'm Fred Hughes, and this is The Next Chapter. All right, we're back with Michael LeVois. He's told us all about his most recent book that's coming out, and the name of that book is?
Any Given Doomsday, book 1 of Gladius Leagues.
Now, do you have, it's out, do you got a sequence on how many, when's the second, because you've got the second,
first
third book Chris has.
Yeah, first book released February 21st. Second book is due to release around the same time in March. And then book 3, the final book in that series, will release, I think, the first week of April, if that hasn't changed.
No, because that's my release date.
Is that your release? Oh, well, then it can't be then. Can't be then.
I always have the first week in April.
Okay, gotcha. No fooling. Sorry.
No. That's a deal I work with Chris.
Is it really? Okay.
He keeps publishing my stuff, and I get the first week in January, first week of April, first week in July, and first week in October.
That's good.
So anyway, look for those books, and at Amazon. Can they get them on? Well, can they find them on your website, Michael?
They can. www or I think it's https:// michaellevoice.com. If you just type in Michael LeVois in Google, my website's the first thing that pops up.
Well, the lovely Stephanie will have that.
Right. And I think
lay that in the video when she does
you'll see that. You'll see Any Given Doomsday. You'll see Galaxy's Most Wanted. I have a merch store, so if you dig the Gladius Leagues logo that's on their armor, you can get that on a hat or a mug or a shirt or anything of that nature. Some of my book covers are available on merchandise there as well. All that's available on my website. And pretty soon, I hope to have another section for progress reports on upcoming projects. I'm working on quite a few different things, actually. And
that segues into what do you have next?
Oh yeah, right now I am working on a co-author of a Space Navy series. We plan a 3-book arc with the potential for more, called SARCOM, SARCOM. It's basically we wanted to take like a Space Force version of the Coast Guard and drop them in the middle of a shooting war with Earth's humanity's first contact with an alien species that turns out to be hostile, but not for anything they've done. It's something we did. And so we wanted to have these rescue personnel caught in the middle of this thing, trying to keep people alive as the aliens and the Alliance's enemies, or everybody's taking shots at each other. And so that'll be a 3-book arc. Also, if anybody wants to look him up, Peter Stanley, my co-author on that, he's a guy from New Zealand. I call him a Kiwi. And Future Boy, because he lives a day in the future. Like right today is tomorrow for him. So, yeah. And he is also the author of Dragoon, the Cav Dev cycle, put out by Three Ravens, I think. And it's an interesting series. It's another power armor alien invasion type story, his own spin on it, which is pretty cool. I'm also working up a romantasy short story soon to be released by William Allen Webb in an anthology. This is a short story set in a fantasy world that I've already released a short story in. That involves a world where the magic has died and everybody's trying to scramble to survive it. And there'll be a future story released in another anthology, hopefully to benefit the Gary Sinise Foundation, set in that same universe. And then I'll be working on a trilogy for that. That's a little down the road, though. Primarily, I'm working on the space opera with Peter, and I'm also developing a military sci-fi story about a group of maintenance gearhead types who get stranded behind not alien, but enemy lines in the middle of a war. And they use their knowledge of how to fix things to do the exact opposite and become the greatest saboteurs in military history. It's called the Gearhead Guerrillas. And all of these characters are based on people I served with in Charlie Hawk, 6th and 52nd Air Defense Artillery. So it's a lot of fun. It's good. A lot of military type humor, a lot of tongue in cheek stuff. It just because that situation just lends itself to it so well. And then I got a couple more short stories set in that universe. One of them's already out there in Tales of the E4 Mafia. And then 2 more short stories set in the Gearhead Guerrilla universe. The Charlie Hawk stories are going to be released in Tales of the E4 Mafia Part 2 and Tales of the Butter Barns. Those are coming out from Henchman Press anthologies there. Okay. So, yeah, I got a lot of stuff going.
Well, that's how you become known. Because as I've told everybody else here that's watched the show, if somebody asks you to write a short story for an anthology, the correct answer is always yes.
Always yes.
So we were just together at a con here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, FenCon, and it was a fun time. Better than last year's FenCon as far as attendance. So I was pleased with how many people were there. Michael was there. There were a lot of
No, I missed that one.
Oh, you weren't there?
No, I missed that one.
You weren't?
Bill was there. Bill was there, I think.
Oh, okay. No, Bill wasn't there. Okay.
He wasn't there?
No.
I missed that. No, we were at LibertyCon together.
Yeah, we're at LibertyCon together. Anyway, right. Okay. So
sorry.
You do have Mid-South Con coming up, though.
We do indeed.
Where else can people find you as far as personal appearances?
Yeah, I will be at Mid-South Con in Olive Branch, Mississippi, the weekend of March 21st. Our illustrious publisher, Chris Kennedy, is one of the guests of honor there. So I'll be spending a lot of time with him, learning the biz as much as I possibly can. So that'll be fun. And that's my home con since I live in the Memphis area. And then my next con that I had planned to go to will be LibertyCon, which is in June. Yeah. And I'm going to try next year to expand my presence in cons. I heard so much good stuff about FenCon. I really would like to go. And I've got a friend who lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area who tells me PCon is pretty good too.
Yep.
So I might try to make that one.
I consider that my home con. I'm a sponsor for that. And
gotcha.
This year, David Weber's going to be there. So.
Oh, yeah. Love David. It was one of my dreams. He's one of the guys that inspired me to write. He was my main, and I met him at 20 Books in Vegas a few years ago. And just over the moon to be able to talk to him. And he just said he's had very simple advice for me. He was like, put in the work. Yep. And I was so thrilled that I got to see him again at LibertyCon last year and just stepped aside with him for a second and said, David, I just wanted to say thank you for being an inspiration and being so open to talking to young guys like me who are just starting out. I want you to know I got a 4-book series out now. And he goes, you did the work.
I want to thank Michael for being on the show this week. That's it for this week's show. I'm Fred Hughes, and this is The Next Chapter.